Hello once again, everyone. So, welcome back to Going Posta. Now we're going to be tackling the awesome one, the one kind of everybody knows, the one everybody fears, and the one nobody can pronounce. It's Dente de Cenghiaro. So, the boar's tooth. Now, there are actually two versions of the boar's tooth. This time we're going to be tackling his first one, which is just named Dente de Cenghiaro, which I like to personally refer to as the aggressive version. So what it's going to be is we'll be right foot forward, and now the sword is going to be held kind of charged in front of our hip, with the tip somewhat toward the ground, posture is erect, and the arms are kind of tucked nicely up underneath myself. Now, this is not dissimilar from the position of Wechsel from the German system, and kind of they're almost interchangeable in that way. But you want to be making sure that your tip is, like I said, in line with your hip, as all of your force is going to be coming from that hip and that back leg for right now. All of the range control is going to be coming from your right leg. Another big thing to make sure that you're doing is try to keep your left wrist engaged. Don't let it start to curl too much. But from there, we're going to only do a couple really simple actions. So Dente is one of those that pretty much anytime you finish a Fendente, from Posta, Dente, really from anything, you're going to end up folding into Dente. Now, of course, you can also end out into Mezzo Porta di Ferro, but more often than not, if you're doing the more sort of tight cutting, especially at sort of closer range, or even escaping from someone trying to get close range, but we'll get to that when we get to Posta Frontale, you will find yourself into Dente more often than not. It can also be a nice way to fold out of probing from Posta Lunga or things along those lines. Step back into Dente de Cenghiaro. It's fantastic for that reason. But really what we're going to get out of this is just a great overall combo, right? So to get there, of course, we're going to have Fendente down. From there, what I'm going to do is I can do three different things. I can thrust without stepping, I can thrust with an accrescere, or I can thrust with an accrescere, recharge on a cut, and then thrust again with the second accrescere. So, let's look at those individually and how I like to apply them. So first off, for this first one wherein I don't step. So that means that I'm going to move into Dente and then should be able to hit Jake in the face without needing to put my foot forward. This means that I'm going to need to get relatively close to him. As such, what I like to do for this is enter in with a cut, and specifically this should be, you're kind of messing around with range distance. My normal cut, I can absolutely hit Jake from here. But to deceive him a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and cut short. He's expecting defense, he's not quite sure what's going on. That's where the tip comes in. And you can put the tip in a lot of places. If he twitched over to the side instead, it can seek up from this way. It really doesn't matter. Heck, if he raised his guard, I could still go underneath. The important thing is that we're deceiving him with range and making sure that he is going to do a defensive option in response, or also nothing. If someone isn't very good at judging their range due to various reasons, this is a great thing to use on them. Because you can really disguise that first Fendente. I mean, it can be as simple as, right? Just folding into it, basically. But if he's comfortable with me being this close to him, absolutely. Now that one's going to be the one you use most rarely. It does still come up, though, absolutely. Now the second option is wherein I like to already start here. Not that you can't get there from a Fendente, but I like to start from here. So he's looking at my tip, he knows what it's going to do, right? This time I'm going to use a small accrescere with my extension as I thrust at his face, so that I'm going to go out, and that's going to prompt him to do one of two things. Either he's going to void his face back, because yes, he could do nothing. Let's err on the side of Jake having a survival reflex. So he's going to either void his body back, or he's going to pull his sword into play. We're going to start with the void of the body. So I extend, of course he's going to retract slightly. The most natural way for me to come back is off this extension. I'm just going to let my arms drop. I am not lifting, then dropping. That's excess tempo we don't need. From here, it's out, forward, right? I'm just dropping straight back into it, and that time I tag both. You're always going to return this way. If I have extended out, there's no reason this shouldn't be a cut, regardless of whether or not it hits anything. It's just good habit to recharge back into your Dente de Cenghiaro, because if you don't, if I just extend, that's kind of weak, and now I have to repower. Versus if I keep things always kind of acting, 1, 2, I'm loading myself up on habit because I had to add that energy to the cut. Also a very simple one. Now, if you don't take the face, you're probably guaranteed to get that lead arm if he's just pulling back. Now, if he runs away from you, that's a different kettle of fish, so we won't worry about that. But let's look at what happens if he puts his sword into it. Now he's only got a couple options, especially from this sort of range, right? He's going to just kind of bring it across to try and defend himself. That's fine. As I feel my tip being set aside, I'm just going to use our pretty much first play from the long range, and just let my tip go up, and just take his hand on the other side as I return. The combo hasn't changed, just my target has changed. So here's that again. No problem. Now it may look like I'm adding more emphasis into the cut. I'm really not. As soon as I feel it set aside, I just kind of let it guide and then bring it back down. This one is actually one I'm pulling a little bit. You can do this a lot faster, but it's going to hit him a lot harder. But this is his 1-2, now with defense. So now let's look at his 1-2-3. So the whole pattern is going to be this action. For now, you'll just not move. It's going to be 1 at the visor, 2 at the hand, 3 at either visor or chest. Now the way I like to use this is it's an extra option onto what we just did. So, my first thrust is meant to get him focused on that upper part of his body. Boom. Either with a void of the body or defense, right? One of those two things, but it got him thinking up there. The second action is meant to take either hand, but I want to take one of them, right? Boom, boom. From there, I've returned into Dente. This is where my third option can change. I've hopefully tagged an arm by now. If I haven't, something's probably pretty wrong and I should just go ahead and leave. But if I have tagged it, I've hurt him, but I haven't finished the fight. This final attack can be one of two things. It can be an attack to whatever is open. So in that case, I tag the arm here. He may actually end up defending that phantom cut. You see that sometimes where they get hit, then they try to cover it, in which case I put my thrust wherever it goes naturally. Or he may just leave it where it is, in which case I can follow through once again with an extension. Another option, however, is that following that cut, he might be kind of upset with me. And so that final extension actually becomes a defense. Now here's how that looks. So just from Dente, so just in my cut and I'm here, if he goes at me, all I'm looking to do is with an extension from Dente de Cenghiaro, I'm just kind of going out into either Posta longa or Posta frontale in this case. I've already hit him. In regards to tournament, they're probably going to call halt by this point. If they don't, no problem. I'm not in that bad of a place to keep fighting. And as well, I can leave this if I want because I've defended myself. But that 1, 2, 3 can either be purely offensive modifying around what he goes with us, or offense, offense, defense. But that's the way I like to use this. Most times I find I don't actually get to the third thrust. Some of the other guys here do, however. But as just a quick review, all of our options one more time. So I'm going to do it without movement. I get nice and close to him. No problem. Hit him. Time's a good one. Option 2, I'm using it a little bit more aggressively. 1, 2. Option 3, and also option 2 with defense. 1, 2. And option 3 is the full combo. 1, 2, 3. Now that with defense. 1, 2, 3. Now that with aggression. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Right? Obviously you'll want to be in a little better hand position than me, but pardon me for parrying when I'm not wearing anything. But, well done as always. That's going to be Dente de Cenghiaro. For those of you wondering about deflecting swords upwards, don't worry, we will get to that. But it's a little later in the book than you'd expect, so we're going to be kind of revisiting Dente a couple times. It seems to be one of Fiore's kind of favorites, and really once you start using it, it'll be one of your favorites too. But either way, thank you very much for watching, and we will go over some other techniques another time.